YC is a good, would you consider, okay, as per your experience, would you consider, let's say, getting a first YC sort of a badge if we get, because YC has a very strict process, very less percentage of applied candidates went into YC, goes into YC. So for future fundraising or future rounds, I would say, is YC a good start, or still it's like the pedigree of the startup anyway?
Okay, so let me just try to rephrase the question as I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking if I'd raise money again for YC if I was starting a new company. Is that the question?
In general, I'm asking a new company, let's say a company like us. So let me give you a small background, very brief background. I'm Vikas Singh, and we are running a blockchain product company, and we are building a few product into decentralized creator space, and we are helping creators to make money out of their time, right? So, and that money would be essentially crypto. So because India doesn't have a very clear space, clear regulations here around crypto and blockchain, I understand that it's better to move to, or let's say, take the company to a clean regulation where at least there are business regulations are good. So I see US as the target market or target area. So a fresh company, for a fresh company who wants to, who in future look forward to raising funds, is YC is a good, would you consider that? Because YC has a lot of, is YC brand distilled down a lot because of like too much of intake, or it is still that thing, the charm is still there for a fresh company, I would say.
Yeah, I would still definitely take YC's money for a new company. I think it still makes sense. I think the brand is still there, the value is still there. And even if there are lots of companies, still see that there is significant value that YC would generate. So I would definitely still go through YC.
Right, thank you. If you can, maybe walk us through the process, like how
Sure,
hard and
sure.
how simple is this? Yeah.
Sure. So the application is broken down into two parts really. The first part is basically a offline application which you submit, where there's a bunch of questions and you also have to record a short video plus a product demo link that you basically submit. So it has maybe 20, 30 questions. So you fill in that form, you record the video, which basically gives an introduction, brief introduction to you and your co-founder, which is typically a minute long, and then you attach a product demo, and you submit that. A lot of people submit that, and they have applications for that are rolling that you can submit that anytime you want. And if they like what they saw in that, they will call you for a second interview. I think from what I understand, during the pandemic, these are happening over Zoom. Before these interviews, the second interviews used to happen physically, where you used to have to fly down to Mountain View, and you had to physically do the interviews with the folks in YC. I'm assuming right now it's all over Zoom. And they also did interviews directly in India the last time around because there were lots of reasons. So that's the interview process. And if they like you in the second part of the interview, they will just say yes and you'll get the money.
What's the
Yeah.
dilution? Is like 7%?
I will not be able to give you exact numbers as to what is there right now, but when we went to ICU service,
Okay.
Um,
you can check
yeah, I
this on
had
their website.
yeah, cool. I had one question actually, like as Vikas also mentioned that a lot of people apply to it. And then, so do you think that there are specific points in your application which you should take care of while applying, or I mean, which might
Sure.
get you rejected, or yeah, something? Yeah.
Sure. So you'll have to do things that get you accepted as well. I mean, default reaction will be rejected. You'll have to do things to get accepted, not things to avoid getting rejected. The things that matter are you building a company that could be $100 billion company? Most companies cannot become $100 billion companies. What you have to prove is that there is a market size or the idea has the scope where it could become $100 billion opportunity. Typically, that's one. Uh, Second would be that you have some ability to demonstrate that you understand the market, or you have proven track record of execution, or you have a lot of traction. So if it's, let's say, you want to make nuclear reactors, you can't say that I have no background in this. So you have to have some background, or you have to have some traction, especially if it's a B2C kind of company. You can't go there with no traction. You can't say I have a mobile app and I only have 1,000 users. Like if it's a consumer mobile app, like you should have like, again, they don't insist on any of these things, but typically that's the thing that gets you rejected. If it's a B2B thing, then probably should have some kind of revenue that you can demonstrate. Or if it's not revenue, at least some early prototype or something that really demonstrates the fact that you can build this, or you are able to execute on this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anybody else has any other questions? Yeah. So maybe I'll ask it. I have too many questions.
So,
Um, so I mean, for a new startup, because you were like second time founder, but for a new startup, like what do you think? Like, and this is very basic generic question, that what is the right time to raise funds? And because people are really confused about when I should approach the VC. So what is the right time, and what should be the approach? And does the cold emailing and a lot of these things also work apart from applying to YC or some established VC? Yeah.
so when is the right time to raise venture? I think there's no good answer to that question. It depends on stage, and it depends on your circumstances. I think good time to raise is when you need to raise. When you need the money, you need the money. I think that's the only time you should ideally be raising, because that means you have dilution every time you raise venture. Right? So unless you need the money, don't do it just for optics that you want to get covered on tech outs and so that you raise so much money. That's not a great idea. You just do it when you need it. And especially if it's a seed stage, you probably need the money because you don't have any money. So at that time, probably you have to raise the money irrespective as soon as you started the company. When it's a later stage financing, I think you have to be a little more opportunistic there, and you have to figure out when you actually want to raise. There's no good answer that this is the right time to raise. If you're a seed stage company, you probably need to raise money because you have no money. But the challenge will be that have you proven enough traction to be able to raise a decent seed round? You don't want to raise a round where you're being valued at like less than $1 million or something. Don't want to do that. YC does 7% for 120K. That's the bare minimum I'd say that you should take in terms of the first round. And that's also a little bit excessive, but just YC has been doing that. So the value is also a lot larger than the 120K. So you're technically doing the 7% for a lot more in terms of value than just $120,000. But don't raise like a very small amount of money. At that point in time, you're better off being bootstrapped. So if you're trying to raise a significant amount of money, like if you're doing a seed round outside of YC, like raise at least like minimum of $200,000-300,000, maybe $500,000, and yeah, I think that's the don't raise like a 50K check. So seed round or a angel investment, don't do that. And sorry, the second question was what was the second question? Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what are the, I mean, what are the processes? I mean, rather than just going to establish like forms and applications
Right,
like
cold emailing.
YCs.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'd say cold emailing has such a low conversion ratio that you're better off doing other things. The simplest thing in terms of operational piece of advice that I can give you is that you first obviously get to a stage where you can raise venture, right? Don't try raising venture without being at a stage where you can raise venture. That's the thing to spend most time on. Like if you are trying to raise venture without being at the stage where you can raise venture, it's the most ridiculous things. So optimize on that. So that's the first thing. Once you feel like okay, I'm at a stage where I can raise venture, then what you want to do is make a list of all of the people who fund the companies that you are, the space you're in. If you are looking at, I'm a fintech company, look at all of the people who fund fintech. Identify the VCs, make a list of 20 VCs. Um, then say that, okay, I want an introduction to them. Okay. So who are the partners at that company that I want to talk to? Then, so you made the second list, the partners at the firms that I want to talk to. Third list is of those people who are the founders that they've invested in. Um, and then try to connect with those founders, and if they like you, you can also ask them for an introduction. Asking them directly for an introduction without having known them is going to be a little difficult. If that is not possible, speak to analysts or associates at these VC firms. It's their job to talk to founders, so that it's literally their job to talk to you. So it's actually not that difficult. So two things to note there. One, if an analyst or associate is speaking to you, it means nothing. It doesn't mean that they're interested in investing. It's their job to talk to as many founders as possible. So if they're speaking to you, it doesn't mean anything. The only thing that it actually means is they must say they're really looking to invest. That's the only real indication of the fact that they're looking to invest. And even that doesn't mean that they're really looking to invest, unless they are talking terms where we're going to give you $10 million, or we're going to give you $2 million, we're going to give you $1 million. None of it means anything. And uh, cold email is probably not the greatest idea. I mean, you can try it, and a lot of people have tried it and possibly been successful. But I would say this would be the path of least resistance, and this is probably the smarter way to approach it than trying to do cold email. Like, if you can't reach a VC, they're probably not going to be able to, do really well in business, because it's not that difficult to reach a VC. It's their job to talk to founders.
Got it. Yeah. Sounds fair. Anyone else, guys, if you have anything? Vikas, do you have any questions?
I was just looking at nanobits, like in the background right now. It looks super cool. I think it's more of like obviously .ai thing, like which we talked with Nirman yesterday, but it's pretty cool. I
Does
think
anybody else?
the most important stage of a company, no, like is the same which you just discussed, Anubha. And I think I was about to ask the same question, because we are also like contemplating this idea of raising money, but we don't know like, okay, is this the right stage? But I think traction is the main factor, because we now are focusing only on the traction right now. Because if you have traction, you sort of leapfrog, you can correct me in this one. So Sarthak, help me understand, because I have I have heard this thing multiple times on multiple occasions, that they look at the founding team first. And let's say if you have traction, they might not look at the founding team, because we do not all come from IITs, right? Not every entrepreneur will come from IITs. I am from NIT. I'm not from IIT, but still IITs and all these things still give them some sort of a signal. So will traction help you to leapfrog, or help VC to give the signal that the team can do it? Because is that a right assumption when
Yeah, so I
traction is
don't
there?
think, I mean, like, example, Freshworks is first as IPO, not from IIT. But uh, I mean, the other way of demonstrating ability is he worked at Zoho. Right? So having worked at Zoho gives credentials that yes, I can do this. Now, if without lack of credentials, okay, if you are saying that okay, I don't have educational institute, sure, but I also don't have credentials, which where I've done something exceptional before, that's also fine. But then yes, the bar keeps getting higher. So the only thing, let's say, if you went to a Stanford, the only thing it does is that it lowers the bar for fundraising. Uh, like, you probably almost can lower, like, example, you went to Stanford, you can almost lower it by one. Like, what will take a founder who didn't go to Stanford to raise a Series A, it will take the sorry, to raise a seed, it will take the same amount of effort for the guy from Stanford to raise a Series A. So, like, it shifts one level almost, but that's about the only difference it makes. beyond a point makes no difference where, I mean, you still have to show traction, you still have to show the fact that your company is doing well.
Right.
Yeah. So I had a question. Basically, I am running a non-profit from last like 4.5 years in India, and we have like impacted more than like 5-6 lakh students, and we teach like different categories of students, right from slum children to professionals, and we have different programs built for them. So last year, we decided to set up a profit arm around it. And basically, why? Because till last year, like all the grants, everything, most of our things were offline. But then later on, like things started moving to online completely, moving to 100% online companies. And it kind of like, and also like doing an NPO in India is kind of difficult, like social change impact has not, like I believe from my perspective has not taken that kind of mindset yet. Like people don't understand that we also need money to run the companies and run the operations and all of that. And so have you seen any other examples, like in your experience, of some NPO moving to a profit limited company, or like transitioning into it? And do you think that it is advisable to run like two different kind of structures at once, like one a non-profit and a profit model, or even that experience of running that non-profit for so many years, like um, would it, I mean, matter to any of the VCs? Like, I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know enough about nonprofits to have an opinion here. You probably, speak to somebody else, and because you don't know, I can try connecting you with somebody, but I don't know enough to be able to answer that question.
Sure. Yeah. uh, does
One
anybody
one
else?
Yeah, one
Yeah,
quick
okay,
question actually. So, are you guys have you guys built it from the scratch, all these things, or are you guys using any services from AWS for all these like unstructured data, because it comes a lot of unstructured data in the screen, like the documents, or you
We
guys like
built it
do?
from scratch.
Okay. Like, and how much time did it took for you guys to actually do that? Because that
About
must have been a very long journey.
1.5 years.
And how big was the founding team, Sarthak?
Two people.
Or you yourself and the other guy, right?
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
cool. um, does anybody else has any questions? Siddharth, Kashav, or anybody like Abhishek?
I see a lot of key companies that are using your product. Like, is it like, how did it happen? Like generally, like when you, so one quick question. Let's say when I look at the offering, so I would say like, okay, AWS also sorts of offers the same thing, but yeah, of course, somebody has to build on top of that, right? All these things. So how do you actually, let's say, go to DoorDash and like, how did they came to know about you? Like, did you, because of your connections, like the past connections, you reached out to them and demonstrated the product, or was it like a very inbound kind of a thing for these kind of products?
It was inbound.
Wow.
Yeah, Abhijit had some question. Abhijit.
Hi. Yeah, I was just gonna ask a ridiculous question, maybe, but wanted to ask you that I think when people apply to places like Y Combinator, they have several expectations, and maybe some of those expectations turn out to be true, and some don't. Did you have any such experience that when you actually became a part of Y Combinator, was there something that was surprising that didn't expect, but it happened, or you expected and it didn't?
So the question, as I understand it, is that what is the reality different from the expectations that we had at YC? And I'm assuming, are you asking this in both positive and negative sense, or just a
Yeah,
particular?
either way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just generally the value of the network that you get because of IC is very high, and you basically find thousands of other founders who are going through the same journey or the same problems. It could be everything from finding a lawyer to how do I do ESOPs to what is the right time to fire somebody. And all of these questions sort of get answered very easily within the YC community. And these are all people who are sort of going through the same journey. So I think the most surprising thing was the utility of this network. Otherwise, typically networks hold very little value. Like, as a founder, let's say being part of some kind of social network would have zero to no value in most cases. The value of this network is particularly high just because of the founders who are going through the same journey. Some of the best founders, example, Airbnb or let's say Dropbox or any of these people are all people who are a part of their network. So just seeing other companies who are going through the same thing and have similar problems as you, where you can get these kind of questions answered is probably the most valuable thing. And one
Thank
of
you.
the things that people don't know outside of getting into access, so that one of the most surprising things.
Yeah, that is quite interesting that it's actually not even I mean, when people are judging networks, they're judging the sort of monetary value of it or the chances it might lead you to getting access to funds. But it's actually, maybe it's even the smaller things like, or the more nuanced aspects of running a company that when it helps you with that, it becomes quite valuable. Thank you. Yeah, that was quite interesting.
Yeah. Anyone else, guys, if you have any questions?
Also, drop my
So,
email in the chat. So, I mean, in case you don't have questions right now and you have them later, you can always take them offline.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So so I think because like we had to do a lot of midnight sessions, like so I think a lot of people couldn't show up this morning, but it was really great having you, Sarthak, and to understand your journey and to know about it. If you want to give like any, I would say, just random advice, like very generic advice to any of the founders who are present here or who would be watching you later on through the session on YouTube. So, I mean, what kind of advice would you give, or what are the do's and don'ts according to you, if you have to just tell
Yeah,
everyone?
I think I'd say that, especially in the early days, don't look too much at anything which is outside of building your core product and getting users to use your product. Focus on the users, focus on them using the product. Don't go into a cycle where you're spending 6, 12 months building product where you haven't spoken to users, talk to as many users as possible, and try to get them to use the product even if it's not a finished product. Like getting user feedback on an unfinished product and trying to get them to use it and trying to see if they find it valuable is much better. So do it on a weekly basis. We are releasing or whatever it is depending on the product. I don't know if we can possibly release it in a week, but try as quickly as possible. Try to release it, getting feedback and iterating. And the early days, that's what matters. And try to find some kind of metric early days that you can scale. Like example, if it's a B2C company, then can you scale number of app installs, or if it's a B2B company, scaling revenue. And if you're going from zero to $100,000, you can almost like manually hustle your way to $100,000. But like do that. I don't try to say that you spend 12 months building it down. Just first focus on going from zero to $100,000 and getting an initial set of users, get your first million installs, and just focus on that in the early days as opposed to trying to create the perfect product.
Yeah. That sounds, I got to learn so much from this session, and really feeling bad for those who missed. But yeah, this was one of the like best sessions I have had. And thank you so much for answering all of these questions patiently. And I'm sure like we had a lot of like very beginner level questions, but we would definitely reach out on your email if we have any more questions. And I would also circulate it among new fellows who are there in the group. And I'm sure that they would get a lot of things to learn from you. So thank you so much, Sarthak, for sparing time this morning and doing this with us. Nimi has joined and a lot of people. So if they have any other questions or anything to add on as a last note, guys, this is the last chance to talk. So if you have anything, Nimi, do you
Yeah.
have anything?
No. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So yeah, no, because I just saw that she joined. So I was like, if anybody has to say anything. Yeah, thank you so much, Sarthak. And we would love to see you again for different sessions. And thank you so much for
Absolutely.
sparing time this morning. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you all so much for joining. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarthak. Bye bye.
Yeah. So our next session starts probably in, I think, half an hour. So if you guys want to take a break or if you want to discuss anything, it is open. But I mean, if you want to go take a break and come back, that is also fine. Okay.
Yeah, yes, we'll take a break. Bye bye.
Sure. Cool. Yeah. Bye.